The courtroom smelled like old wood and stale coffee. Marissa sat in the front row, her black dress perfectly pressed, her hands folded in her lap like she was praying. But she wasn't praying. She was smiling, just a little. Just enough that if you didn't know her, you'd think she was trying to hold back tears. Daniel sat 2 seats away, his suit expensive, his face carefully blank. He stared straight ahead at the judge's bench, waiting. They'd been waiting for this day for months. The day Ethan Caldwell's fortune would finally be theirs. The lawyer standing at the front shuffled his papers and cleared his throat. We are gathered here today for the reading of the last will and testament of Ethan Caldwell, deceased, and the formal transfer of assets to his surviving spouse, Marissa Caldwell. Marissa's smile grew. She couldn't help it. All those months of pretending to love a man she barely tolerated. All those nights slipping tiny amount of arsenic into his evening tea. Watching him grow weaker, paler, quieter. It had worked. He was gone, and now everything he'd built was hers. Daniel shifted in his seat. He caught her eye and gave a small nod. Soon they'd be free. Free to sell off the company, take the money, and disappear somewhere warm and far away. Somewhere no one would ask questions. The heavy oak doors at the back of the courtroom creaked open. Marissa didn't turn around at first. It was probably just some clerk or assistant coming in late. But then she heard the footsteps. Slow, steady, 2 sets of them. The lawyer stopped talking. His face went pale. Paper slipped from his hands and scattered across the floor. Marissa turned, and her heart stopped. Ethan Caldwell walked down the center aisle. His hand wrapped around a small hand, a little girl with tangled brown hair and eyes that had seen too much. Lily, his daughter, the one who was supposed to be dead. The courtroom exploded into chaos. People stood. Someone gasped. A woman in the back row screamed. But Ethan didn't stop walking. He kept his eyes locked on Marissa, and the look on his face wasn't anger. It was something colder, something final. Daniel shot to his feet, his face drained of color. "That's not possible," he whispered. "She's dead. She's dead," Ethan said, his voice calm and clear. "Funny. That's what you wanted everyone to think, wasn't it?" Lily stood close to her father, her small fingers gripping his hand tight. She looked at Marissa and didn't blink. "You took me," she said softly. "You locked me in that basement and told me Dad didn't want me anymore." Marissa's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The judge banged his gavel, but it didn't stop the noise. "Order. I will have order in this court." Ethan reached into his jacket and pulled out a small recording device. He set it on the lawyer's table and pressed play. Marissa's voice filled the room. Cold, businesslike. He's getting weaker. Another 2 weeks, and it'll look like natural causes. Heart failure. Stress from losing his daughter. No one will question it. Then Daniel's voice. "And the girl, she stays where she is until it's done. After that, we'll deal with her." The courtroom went silent. Every eye turned to Marissa and Daniel. The judge leaned forward, his face hard as stone. "Is that your voice, Mrs. Caldwell?" Marissa stood, shaking her head. No, that's... Someone faked that. Someone is trying to frame us." Lily stepped forward. Her voice was small but steady. "I heard you say it. I was hiding in the closet upstairs. You said you were going to kill my dad so you could take his money. You said I was in the way." Tears ran down her cheeks, but she didn't look away. "I ran. I got out through the basement window, and I found him, and we made a plan because you thought you were so smart. But you weren't." Ethan knelt down beside his daughter and pulled her close. His voice cracked. "She's 7 years old, and you put her through hell." 2 police officers stepped into the courtroom from a side door. They moved toward Marissa and Daniel, their faces grim. Marissa backed up, shaking her head, her hands out in front of her like she could stop what was coming. "This is insane. You can't do this. I'm his wife." "You tried to murder him," the judge said flatly. "Officers, take them into custody." Daniel bolted. He shoved past a row of chairs and ran for the back door, but one of the officers was faster. He tackled Daniel to the ground, and the sound of handcuffs clicking shut echoed through the room. Marissa didn't run. She just stood there, frozen as the other officer took her by the arm and read her rights. As they dragged her toward the door, she looked back at Ethan. "I loved you," she said, and her voice was desperate now. "I did. In the beginning." Ethan didn't respond. He just held his daughter tighter. When the doors closed behind them, the courtroom stayed quiet for a long moment. Then the judge looked at Ethan and Lily, and his expression softened. "Mr. Caldwell, I think we're done here." Ethan nodded. He stood, still holding Lily's hand, and walked out of the courtroom without looking back. Outside, the sunlight was too bright. Ethan blinked against it, feeling the warmth on his face for the first time in what felt like forever. Lily looked up at him, squinting. "Can we go home now?" "Yeah," he said quietly. "We can go home." They drove in silence for a while. Lily sat in the passenger seat, her legs pulled up under her, staring out the window. Ethan glanced over at her every few minutes, still half afraid she'd disappear, that this was all some cruel dream and he'd wake up alone again. "Dad." "Yes, sweetheart." Why did she do it? Ethan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He didn't have a good answer. He wasn't sure there was one. Some people get so wrapped up in what they want that they forget what's right. They forget about the people they're hurting. Lily was quiet for a moment. "She told me you didn't love me anymore, that you were glad I was gone." Ethan's throat closed up. He had to pull the car over to the side of the road. He put in park and turned to look at his daughter. "Lily, listen to me. That was a lie. The worst lie anyone has ever told. I have loved you every single second of every single day since you were born. And when I thought you were gone, I wanted to die too. Do you understand me?" She nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "I missed you so much." He unbuckled his seatbelt and pulled her across the console into his arms. She buried her face in his shoulder and sobbed, and he held her and rocked her and whispered that she was safe now, that no one would ever take her away again. When they finally pulled up to the house, Ethan sat in the driveway for a long time, staring at the front door. He hadn't been able to come back here after the explosion, after he thought he'd lost her. The house had felt like a tomb. But now Lily was here, and it wasn't a tomb anymore. They walked up to the front door together. Inside, everything was the same. The furniture, the pictures on the walls. Lily's toys still scattered in the corner of the living room, where she'd left them the day Marissa took her. Lily walked slowly through the house, touching things like she was making sure they were real. She stopped in front of the fireplace. Above it hung a photo of the two of them at the beach, both of them laughing, covered in sand. "I thought I'd never see this again," she said softly. Ethan stood beside her. "Me too." That night, after Lily had fallen asleep in her own bed for the first time in months, Ethan went outside. At the edge of the driveway, near the oak tree, was a small stone memorial he'd built in the weeks after the explosion. It had Lily's name carved into it, her birth date, and the date he thought she died. He stood there staring at it for a long time. Then he went to the garage, grabbed a sledgehammer, and came back. The first swing cracked the stone. The second shattered it. Piece by piece, he tore it down until there was nothing left but rubble. When he was done, he sat down on the grass, breathing hard, tears running down his face. But they weren't tears of grief this time. They were something else. Something lighter. Relief. Gratitude. Hope. Behind him, the front door opened. Lily stood there in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Dad." He turned and smiled. "Hey, Bug. What are you doing up?" She walked over and sat down beside him in the grass. "I heard you outside. What were you doing?" He looked at the pile of broken stone. "Getting rid of something we don't need anymore." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "Good." They sat there together in the quiet under the stars, and for the first time in a very long time, Ethan felt like he could breathe. Lily was home. She was safe. And nothing in the world would ever take her from him again.
Thank you for watching. Your support means the world. Keep cheering us on and stay tuned for more stories.